Welcome to Piano Inspires podcast, celebrating pianists, teachers, and innovators as they share their inspiring stories about the transformative power of music.
Are you passionate about piano and keyboard education? Then mark your calendars for an event that's set to elevate your teaching skills to new heights. The National Conference for Keyboard Pedagogy is back, and it's bigger and better than ever. Join us for our online conference on June 7 and 8, 2025, and our in-person conference, July 23 to 26, 2025, in Lombard, Illinois, for an unforgettable gathering of educators, performers, and industry experts. Whether you're a seasoned professional or just starting out, this conference offers something for everyone. Dive into workshops led by renowned instructors, discover cutting-edge teaching techniques, and connect with like-minded individuals who share your love for music education. Don't miss out on this incredible opportunity to learn, grow, and be inspired. For more information, visit nckp2025.com today.
Hello, I'm Craig Sale, Senior Editor with Piano Magazine and Director of Online Courses for the Francis Clark Center. And I'm very happy to be here today with Scott McBride Smith. Scott is a recognized leader in music education. As the Cordelia Brown Murphy Professor of Piano Pedagogy at the University of Kansas, he focuses on national issues of teacher training and piano pedagogy. Also, as President and CEO of the International Institute for Young Musicians, he leads a summer program offering specialized training for gifted young performers from around the world. Along with that, he's done many things in his career. Just a few things that I'll mention are that he is the co-author of the groundbreaking series American Popular Piano. He's also the co-author of the wonderful college text, The Well-Tempered Keyboard Teacher. And I had the pleasure of getting to know Scott and working with him for many years when he was an associate editor of Keyboard Companion and Clavier Companion magazine. The growing interest in his philosophical and cognitive approach to music teaching has resulted in appearances across the US, Canada, Europe, Asia, Australia, and South America. And with all of that going on, he has never lost the ability to see humor in our profession and to laugh. And I expect we may get to see some of that today in our talk. So welcome, Scott, and thank you for being here.
It's my pleasure, Craig. Thanks for having me.
It's wonderful.
It's always fun to get together.
It is.
Maybe we'll have fun.
We will. We always like to start these interviews with the beginning and your childhood and how music entered into your life as a child and when that began and how.
Well, I had a fun time. You warned me ahead of time, so I had a fun time kind of going back to those memories. I don't come from a musical family. And so at that time in where I lived in U.S. history, we didn't know anybody that didn't take lessons. It was just very common for kids to have some kind of lessons. And I don't mean necessarily private lessons, but, play the French horn in the band or something. And so for my parents, that was their goal.
Right.
And my sister took piano lessons and something just drew me to it. But I had to beg them to let me take piano because it was such a different era. They felt piano was for girls.
Oh, wow.
See, a brass instrument is for boys.
Yeah.
See?
Right.
But I didn't like the brass instrument. I wanted to do piano. So finally, when I was 13, I talked them into it.
13?
Yeah. Took a long time.
Yeah. My goodness. And where was this in the
I grew
country?
up in a suburb of Seattle called Bellevue.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So there was no other instrument until you were 13?
Well, I played saxophone and trombone in the elementary school band.
Right. Okay.
Without conspicuous success.
And then when you started with piano, did something change in your life?
No.
No.
I studied with a neighborhood teacher who was a very kind-hearted person and good with kids and well-meaning, but not really qualified to teach.
Right.
And again, my parents just wouldn't have known that there was such a thing as finding a qualified teacher.
Right.
Yeah.
So when did this change? Looking at your resume of all these things related to piano, something had to change.
Craig, that's why, because I always felt behind and because I was behind.
Yeah.
And so that once somehow I discovered that was what I wanted to do, I was well aware that I needed to work twice as hard, but I wanted to.
Right.
And so
Right.
it's life is funny, isn't it?
Uh-huh.
Where you start and where you
And
end
where you
up.
end up.
So I know you're probably going to ask me what made me change, and that I
Uh-huh.
can't really answer. It's just something inside
Uh-huh.
myself wanted to do it.
Uh-huh.
It wasn't anyone pushing me or encouraging me or anything. It was maybe it was just the music. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Could be. So when you went to college, did you go as a music major?
No, I didn't.
No.
Not at first. I switched.
Ah, okay.
So I took lessons for fun, and then I just realized I really like this a lot better. I was some kind of liberal arts major. I was undirected. Let's put it that way.
So you talked about your first teacher.
Mm-hmm.
Was there a teacher then along the way that was really pivotal in terms of your direction in life?
There were several. I think in my life, I've had a knack of finding mentors and having good luck just at the moment I needed it. Just being able to find the person that could accept me for who I was at that time and help me move forward and somehow see some possibilities.
Right.
I'm quite sure I always was the worst audition. The worst. I'm not exaggerating. I'm sure I was, because I just was. I couldn't play. And yet somehow I found a way to make connections with the person that could help me. That in itself is a talent, isn't it?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So my teacher at college was a man named Charles Murray North. His wife is. I went to Seattle last year to see his wife play her farewell concert at age 93, Tchaikovsky concerto.
My goodness. Wow.
So it's wonderful to keep in touch all these years.
Yeah. So then after your undergraduate, what happened then?
Well, in those days, as I tell you my story, you'll see I really have good luck. The Steinway Company was still owned by the Steinway family, and they gave little scholarships to go study in New York.
Oh, my.
Through the dealers. I think it was some kind of promotional thing.
Yeah.
And Seattle is now kind of a piano city and lots of good teachers. But in those days, it was not. It was a little far away. This is before the internet and the ease of flying. It was a far away provincial city.
Yeah.
And so they gave it to me just probably because there wasn't anybody else. But of course, I was so ignorant, I didn't know. So I just went. Here I am. So I took lessons with Adele Marcus, who was a very famous teacher at that time. And again, I certainly was not the normal kind of student she would take or was used to. And yet somehow she liked me in her old-fashioned sarcastic way. And I always felt that she thought I could do it. I always felt, and if you want to know what she said or did, I have no idea. She didn't do anything, but it was just a vibe I got that she was supportive of me, and that meant a lot.
Right. Well, and that's something that I think we all can hold on to in our teaching.
I knew I was the worst. By that time, I'd figured it out. But I mean, somehow the fact that she thought I could do it really, in my opinion, she thought maybe if she were here, she wouldn't say that, but that was what I thought.
Yeah. Interesting. So I'm sensing this gradual evolution.
Right.
Take us to the next chapter.
Well, then when I was in New York, I met a professor at the University of Kansas who was on sabbatical, and he encouraged me to go there, and that's how I went there, which is kind of ironic because now I'm a professor.
Now you're there. Yeah.
So I got my master's degree in Kansas, and that was a really good place because it had a high musical tradition and lots of good teachers, but was a little more low-key in New York. I probably would have sunk to the bottom of the Atlantic had I stayed there,
Yeah.
And then from there, I went on and got my doctorate at USC. And by this time, I'd sort of figured out what I needed to do, and I was a little more on my feet.
A little more.
Yeah.
I think
it's
probably
a
bit more.
It's a process.
Yeah, let's continue because this is just, I'm fascinated by this.
Well, so you know what? In the story I'm telling you is kind of the germs of who I am, just like all of us.
Yeah.
And so in a kind of a sense, I'm a little bit of an outlier. And so I see that as a plus, although sometimes it's kind of a lonely place to be, but I see that as a plus because I sort of see things in a little different way. I didn't study in a big city with a top teacher, an affiliated school, and all those sort of things. So I kind of look at things a little differently. And I always felt growing up that what would have happened to me had I been able to access a higher level of teaching at a young age. What would my life have been like if that was more readily available? My parents weren't opposed to it. They were just not musical to know enough to even look for it.
Right. Yeah.
Now, maybe in today's world they would, with all the internet
sure,
and all the
right.
information.
The
But
information
remember,
is
this
out
is
there.
1960 something. And
Yeah.
yeah.
So after USC, did you feel more put together and ready to take on the world?
I told you I've always been lucky. So when I was a student at USC, I got a job at a local college in those days called Chapman College, called Chapman University. And that's one of the better music programs in California.
Okay.
And I got it just by, I was going through a divorce and I was just desperate for a job. So I did what everybody said don't do. And this is back in the days of typewriters. I hand typed 87 letters to every school in Southern
Oh my
California
goodness.
that had any kind of music, so-and-so technical college. If they had
Yeah.
listed music, I sent it. And for Chapman College, I got the cover letter mixed up with another college. So the dean called me to tell me I'd sent the wrong cover letter. It was Compton College he got, and Compton
Oh,
obviously
no.
got Chapman. And somehow we got to be friends and he hired me.
He hired you.
See, I did exactly what you're not supposed
Yeah.
to do. And somehow
Yeah.
luck smiled on me.
And I'm curious, how did you feel about your skills as a teacher in those early stages?
Well, I bet your life wasn't so dissimilar. We didn't have pedagogy in those days.
No.
The thinking was, and sadly it's still around, was that if you were a good player, that's all you needed to be a good teacher.
Mm-hmm.
So even the rudiments of educational psychology were not taught, and maybe if anything, looked down upon.
Oh, yeah.
That was my perception
Mhm.
by the group of people. What
Yeah.
I was like. So if any of my first students are listening,
Could happen.
Yeah, please forgive me.
Right.
One time I told a 5-year-old to play more nostalgically. What did I think she was nostalgic for? But see, that was what.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Imagery, and all that. It's very important.
Learn by doing, which means learn by doing it wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then how did you get connected into, well, as you mentioned, I mean, piano pedagogy was sort of not
Right.
widely present in the country. I don't think it really began surfacing until the early 80s. was when
You're
it
right. I
really
mean, there
took
were some
off.
pioneers,
There were pioneers,
Francis,
right.
and things were going on. But again, you wouldn't necessarily have known
Right.
to seek it out.
Yeah.
In those days, I think the music publishers were a little more active than they are now, sending out clinicians and things
Right.
like that. So it was there if you knew to seek it out. But see, I wouldn't have known to seek it out.
Right.
I was starting from zero.
So how did the intersection happen for you with the pedagogy world as it was growing?
Well, my nose just drew me to it. I could see my students I was getting at Chapman, very nice students and very serious,
Mhm.
but really not capable of being a piano major or a high-level teacher because they didn't have the background. You can't learn it in 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
So my sense of mission in these pedagogical issues was growing, and I kind of needed an outlet.
Mm-hmm.
And so Marianne User, who I knew was my boss when I was a GTA at USC,
Right.
was one of the leaders, and she went to
Yeah.
the very first pedagogy conference,
right.
which is, I think, was in the 80s. You're right. It was outside of Kansas
Yeah.
City, and Richard Cronster was involved in organizing that.
Mm-hmm.
So I think she kind of drew me in.
Okay.
And she's 92, and she's still alive, and she's still working. And so she's
Oh
still
my. Oh, wonderful.
she's still forcefully giving me advice, and I follow her advice.
Of course. Of course. And of course, at some point, I don't remember what year, but you did do Well-Tempered Keyboard Teacher with her. And
That was the
and
second
others.
edition. That
The
was
second
probably about
edition.
25 years ago.
Was
Yeah.
it? Yeah. Which I still think is a wonderful
Yeah.
book.
It needs an
It's-
updating, but in the world of the publishing
Yeah.
world these days, that's not
But-
that easy to do.
Yeah, but it had all those topics in it that weren't hadn't been recognized as being important.
I think that's right. And there's a lot of useful other pedagogical books in a practical way.
Mm-hmm.
Here's how to organize your studio.
Right.
Here's some fun pieces. There was nothing that quite gave it an academic,
Right.
psychological, scientific basis. That she was really a pioneer in that. I
Yeah.
give her a lot of credit.
Yeah. And I'm getting the sense that what she was a pioneer in impacted you
Mhm.
and your work and your
Well, by that time,
understanding
I'd
of
become a
teaching.
well-known independent teacher in California and had lots of prize-winning students and everything. And
Okay.
this has never been her background of
Ah.
independent teaching in that
Sure.
way. So she saw me as adding something that was a little lacking in the book before.
Okay.
And immodestly, I think she was right. So
Mhm.
made it
Yeah.
a little more complete.
Yeah, that makes sense. Along this path that you had, which is, again, I'll say it's really fascinating because
Oh, thanks.
I've known you,
Yeah,
but I had no idea of your
this is fun.
journey.
Well, let's hope the listeners have fun too. I'm having fun talking to you about it. We've been good friends for a long time
Right.
without really getting to this level.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. So who in this process, and they don't have to be teachers or musicians, maybe, but who inspired you um, in different ways, either to look at certain things or to keep going or to motivate you?
Wow, that's such a big question.
It is.
Well, I learned I like to cook. You're going to laugh at me. I learned how to in these days in psychological education we call it chunking.
Mhm.
I learned how to chunk and organize and sequence things from Julia Child's French recipes. She knows she could just break down a recipe
Right.
into every little step
Uh-huh.
and do this, do this, do this. And this is before the days of video or everything. And I kind of
Right.
thought, that's going to work in teaching too.
Ah,
So I had good teachers, but it was the old style teaching of
sure.
playing for you and talking in imagery, which it certainly has a place. But
Right.
see, since I didn't have a strong background, I wasn't able to pick up on what they
Yeah.
were really saying.
Mhm.
So then they would tell me I wasn't talented.
Oh,
And
that's
I guess
supportive.
they're, in a way, they were entirely wrong, not talented in the way they wanted to
It
teach
wasn't
me.
developed talent
Right.
yet.
Yeah.
But and I'm interested. I know one of your topics for a long time, because of your role as associate editor in Keyboard Companion, was the area of technique.
Mhm. That was fun. I learned a lot.
So you learned while you were doing that. I kind of assumed maybe you had put
Really?
it together for yourself, and then
Yes, I think I did, and I think
Yeah.
that was part of it.
Right.
And I knew Richard from when he'd been a teacher at USC, and so he invited
Oh.
me on board.
Uh-huh.
And he and I would have lunch. We lived in different parts of Los Angeles,
Right.
but he and I would have lunch once every few months, and I learned a lot from
Uh-huh.
him. His kind of egalitarian view
Yes.
of what lessons should be,
Mhm.
his vision of making information available. Because at that time, even more than today, it's coming out of an elitist tradition
Yes.
in which if you're already talented, and if you don't know, that means you're not talented, something like that.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
I just his whole philosophy was a powerful influence on me.
Mhm.
And I also learned it's really hard to write about technique. It is
Yes.
really hard.
Oh,
Today, I wouldn't even bother. I would have a whole set of videos on
Yes.
YouTube and,
Yeah,
but
right.
trying to write it in an article,
Yeah.
it's really hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then asking other people to write about
Yeah.
it.
Some of whom aren't really writers. So
Yeah.
yeah. My minor area for my doctorate was literature, so I like to write and I like to read. And so that's
okay.
probably another reason he asked me. But
Sure.
boy, that was hard to do. But that
Uh-huh.
caused me to really think and
Mhm.
learn it better. So yeah, it was really a learning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you think you have other areas that are particular areas where you put stuff together and that you share either in workshops or that you feel strongly impact your teaching?
Mm-hmm. Good question. Let me just organize my thoughts for a minute. Well, being an outlier, an
Mhm.
outsider, like I said, I'm kind of a self-learner in a way, and I don't
Yes.
always do well. The people that supervise me in doing things will tell you I'm not a rule follower because I need to do it my own way or I can't do it.
Uh-huh.
So I have to figure it out my own way, kind of step by step, and put it together in my
Uh-huh.
brain in the way that makes sense to me, which may not be the way they think I should be doing it.
Right.
And then later they're always okay with it. I don't mean we part on bad terms or anything. Once they
Right,
see
right.
where I'm heading with it, it always kind of works out okay.
Right.
So I kind of have a way of assembling things that make sense to me in kind of a step-by-step way.
Mhm.
And that perhaps is because I spent so much of my time teaching small students where
Mhm.
I had to figure, they aren't going to go from A to B if I don't explain it well.
Right.
Aside from the rare one that there are some that just
Yeah.
sort of have an intuitive sense of what you're doing, but most
Mhm.
not.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. Um, it's interesting. Because I too was not the best student in my teacher's studio, and there were many things that we had to do. But I just will never forget. He would always say, "You've got to figure it out, and that's okay because that's going to make you a better teacher
Yeah.
because you have." And I think that's really
Yeah.
true.
And maybe you're like me. I always saw myself as a teacher.
Oh yeah,
I had
yeah.
no illusions that I was going to be touring
Right.
around the world. And I was interested in teaching. And when I was a teenager, before I made the commitment to music, I worked in summer camps,
Mm-hmm.
things like that. So the idea that I would be a teacher of pre-college students just seemed very natural to me and something
Mm-hmm.
that I would enjoy doing. And for most of my career, I did, and I did enjoy it.
Yeah.
I'm happy that I have this opportunity at the end of my career to come into
Right.
academia, but I really enjoyed the other parts too.
Yeah. Yeah. So currently with your work at University of Kansas, you have pedagogy classes, I'm assuming.
Well, we just have a new pedagogy major and it's taking off, and actually we're going to take it online.
Oh,
So
wonderful.
I'm working on that now. Yeah.
Okay. So again, taking it your own direction.
You know me, man.
Yeah. Kind of veering off on that. I'm curious to know your thoughts on piano education in, well, we'll keep it within our country here today, and the path we're on. Are we on a good path? Are we on a path? How are we doing?
You're asking me these big questions.
I know.
You think I know more than I do. Well, you know what? I think within the profession, due to the leadership of some of the people we've already been talking about, within the profession, we overall are doing a better job of teaching piano teachers. We overall have solved some of these problems, or that might be too strong. We found some solutions that are readily available. But it's also at a time when American society at large has less interest in what we're doing. So, you know, piano sales peaked in the 70s, and it's been either a steep decline or a short decline ever since then. And American society's belief, again, like I said, when I was growing up, at least in a suburb of Seattle, they felt that every child should have some arts in their life. And we're not talking about professional level training. We're just some kind of musical experience, children's theater, all kinds of those things. Now they're really, society at large, I think, does not see that. And it's sort of just available to, well, people with money.
Yeah.
That's about it. And I see that as kind of a tragedy.
Yeah.
But so on one hand, I think we're doing the best we can to make things better with some success at a time where people care less about what we do.
Right. And the question is,
You let me know what the solution
yeah,
is.
I was going to say, how do we make them care more?
Yeah. How do you make someone be interested? And I'm even it dates back to the 80s. There was a famous Getty Institute study during the 80s of people's declining belief in the value of the arts. So this has been going on for a long time now. And I don't think it's reversed itself since then. That's 40 years ago. No. So I'm sure it's societal forces that are well beyond two piano teachers.
I wonder if there's something, if in our profession, if we need to consider a shift in not necessarily what we teach, but, or, well, it could be what or how, the content of our lessons that is more engaging and inviting.
Well, I think we don't realize about it with this, but we're in a little bubble. And our bubble is so intense, maybe we don't even realize there's another world out there of people that want to learn music and want to learn piano, but maybe not perhaps in the way that we think piano teaching should be. So it's funny you bring this up, Craig. I have a student who's teaching, he's Taiwanese American, and he's teaching at a historically black university. And he has some super talented students, some of whom taught themselves piano on YouTube.
Oh, wow.
And surprisingly, they're really not bad. But he's like, well, Dr. Smith, this has nothing to do with pedagogy. How am I going to start? What am I supposed to do? Start them all the way over and learn? See, they don't read very well.
Sure.
They have really good ears, and they actually can really get surprisingly better than you think. But some of the basic skills that I told him are part of piano lessons, he's like, what am I going to do? I said, well, it's good for you to realize he he's a really good young guy, but had the traditional, went to Oberlin, went to Manus, and then came to KU. He has kind of a traditional piano background. I'm not sure he knew these people like that ever existed. And I said, it's really good for you to realize there's a whole world of people that really value music, but not necessarily in the way our traditions are.
Exactly.
And they should be part of our tradition.
Definitely. It's like when you start teaching and you find out you've got the kids who practice, the ones who don't, but then you have kids with
and that was probably too in 1800 too.
Right. But then you encounter kids with learning issues.
Yeah.
And nobody ever prepared you for that.
No.
And you have to, seek out whatever resources you can, but you also have to figure it out and that's actually, I think, one of the exciting things about what we do is when we get those challenges and we have to find a solution.
Yeah.
Because, pedagogy isn't about teaching it this way. It's about
right. Well, like he's going through right now in his young career, you always teach the way you were taught because you don't really know any other way.
Right.
And then you kind of realize this maybe isn't working quite as well as I thought it was going to. Because the world changes and students change and opportunities change. It's all to be expected.
Right.
He's dealing with it really well. I'm proud of him. But, it's a transition. Let's call it.
Yeah, definitely. This is another one of those big questions. It's rather grand sounding, but it's an important one for you. How do you think your work in this profession, or how do you hope your work in this profession has impacted the world?
I knew you were going to ask me that. I don't have an equally grand answer because I'm not self-reflective in that way, but I must be doing something because people ask me to do things. And I think, I've been very interested in teaching internationally over the last few years.
Right.
So obviously someone thinks I have something to offer. So kind of what I think about it is that it's really for others to decide. I'm going to continue on my path that I think is right. And somebody must think it's okay because here I am still, right?
I like that. You're just doing your thing and people can take from it.
I've learned to trust my nose. I've learned to trust or my guiding force or my fate, however you want to think it. I sort of trust my ability to see where I need to go and go there. And so that's how I do it. So I'm actually not reflecting on what I did before. I'm thinking, where am I going next? So that's my way to do it. Maybe I'm avoiding a lot of problems by doing it.
And here I am trying to force you to reflect.
Wrong person.
Let's talk a little bit about music rather than
Sure,
you.
let's do. Yeah. Since we're both musicians, yeah.
Right. What impact do you see music having on our world now?
Yeah, that's a good one, isn't it? Well, there's something magical about the combinations of sounds, isn't it? There's something special about being around beauty that just elevates your life. The worst piano student at least is there to experience beauty. You're not around violence. You're not around suffering. You and I, because we're professionals, spend our lives around people that actually want to do it. That's really kind of a gift. So why doesn't the rest of the world see that? I don't know. That's a good question. Do you have an answer?
No.
I just don't know why they don't value it. It seems so valuable to me. So, as a department chair at KU, I have to understand the decisions in these days in universities are made for financial reasons.
Right.
Because, and again, I'm not criticizing, were I the provost of the university, I would have to too, because who's going to pay?
Right.
So you have to make financial decisions. But I sometimes wonder, don't they see how good this is for the school and how much the marching band means? I wouldn't say they don't see it, but I don't think it's as valued as some other things with higher dollar sign numbers on it.
But that's how they're trained to look at it, is the dollar sign rather than the impact on those kids' lives.
Right. So I have to be a big boy and understand that and make sure that I'm doing my best to justify what we do on financial basis, which isn't really my belief as what the importance of it is. But anyway, since that's the way the world works, I have to live in the world the way it is, not the way I wish it were.
Right. Also, I think music in the world, I find it's so accessible for people to get music and experience it passively.
Yeah, right, that's right. And that's a
Much
good thing
more
and a
so.
bad thing. There's
Right.
nobody in the whole world that doesn't have music in their life in some way.
Right.
But maybe it's a little too easy to just push a button.
Right.
We've lost that
Right.
belief in participation.
Yeah.
We expect it to
And-
be delivered to
right.
us.
Active music making is what we might be concerned about, I think. Do you think music impacts the future of our world?
Yes. I'm not sure we're going to win, though, but
Yeah. It could.
Yeah.
It could shape
Well,
it.
anyway, nobody's asking a pair of piano teachers what we're doing. We just got to keep doing what we can
Right.
do. No one's asking our opinion.
Yeah.
Really.
Well, and you know, at the Francis Clark Center, we talk a lot about how teachers impact the world
Yeah.
through our work,
Right.
and it's this idea of partly elevating for ourselves and people in our profession the work that we do, but it's also to tell the world that what we do is not just this hobby.
Well, you're right. You're right. I mean, if you look at history, the power of a small group of committed people is
Mhm.
strong.
Yeah.
I mean, if we're waiting around for the majority of people to come over, we're going to wait too long. But if we get together and work
Mhm.
on these things,
That's
we have
right.
power. And so I think you said something really true there.
Yeah.
The benefit of focusing on these issues together
Mm-hmm.
and trying to positively influence
Right.
things is really powerful.
Right. So the grand question.
Oh, there's more grand questions.
No, but this is the biggie that we like to kind of wrap
Okay.
things up with all the time. Is the question: how does piano inspire you?
See, that's too big because it's my life. Yeah. So that's just
Well, it must be inspiring for you.
Well, I think I saw some surveys sometime, and this was a long time, it may not be true anymore, that being a piano teacher is one of the longest lived occupations.
Hmm.
And of course, you and I both know lots of examples of piano teachers that had long lives, and of course, some that did not.
Mhm.
But I think it's because, first of all, you're around the energy and sincerity of young people.
Mm-hmm.
You're constantly being challenged to learn anew and to think. And I think, my dad was a successful businessman, but once he'd mastered his business, he more or less kind of just repeated it with
Sure.
little variations.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas we always have to every student's a little different.
Mm-hmm.
Every piece is a little different. So we
Right.
have to really stay alive mentally, which I think also kind
Right.
of keeps you physically alive.
Yeah.
So I think just the whole, you have to like to learn and you have to want to learn. But sometimes I wish our non-musical fellow countrymen had a little bit more of that viewpoint. The world would be a better place.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So, well, first of all, of course, I want to give you my official thanks for doing this, but I do want to say I learned a great deal about you, but it's also, I think, a story that's important for people to hear because there's many people in our profession who have lived totally different lives.
Yeah. More than you think. I bet you're really learning that in your interviews.
Yeah.
More than you know, the stories are a little
Right.
different. You
They're
assume
different.
certain things that,
And I think many people will take away from your story this idea of evolution and maybe not really knowing where you're going.
Yeah.
But following your nose.
Well, I'll tell you what, every time I thought I was going somewhere, I was proved wrong, but sometimes the wrong was better than what my plan
Right.
had been. So I
Right.
kind of learned, let's not
Right.
plan too much because it's not going to happen
Yeah.
anyway.
And then to have that turn out
Yeah.
to be the life that you have led and to have made the great contributions that you have
Well, thank you. That's
in our
nice of you to say
profession.
that.
I think, score. You did it.
Worked for me.
It worked for you and it worked for all of us.
Yeah.
So thank you very much, Scott.
My pleasure, Greg. It's always great to see you. And thanks for doing this series. I think it's really a valuable contribution.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
The Francis Clark Center is a not-for-profit educational organization that serves the advancement of piano teaching, learning, and performing. Divisions include Piano Magazine, Piano Inspires Kids, Journal for Piano Research, National Conference on Keyboard Pedagogy, the New School for Music Study, Piano Education Press, International Online Teacher Education, and Piano Inspire's online community hub. Please visit us at pianoinspires.com to learn more about our impactful work and inspiring community.